they sent me the book and I opened it up and there's a full page colour photo from my phone that is just stunning. The afternoon sun on the buildings. You can read the names of some of the buildings. And it says, when you see growth and change around you, are you intimidated or inspired? Are you envious or encouraged? We get to choose our response. And that was one of the epiphanies that I had at the top of that building that day when I asked myself, what can I learn here? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Connect with Confidence. Or if you're here for the first time, welcome, welcome. We are delighted. So this conversation today is going to be a little different to usual because I have been reading through some of my previous writings, and I thought I'm going to take you on a journey today and go on a journey myself. And of course, I've invited Lyndon to join me because he's been part of this journey the whole time. And so I'm just going to, I think it'll be really fun to read some of the things that I wrote back in 2008, 2009, and let's see what I think of it. And I hope you enjoy the journey. So let's just welcome Lyndon to the podcast.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me for this conversation.
More than welcome.
It's we have such lengthy conversations when we are out walking, and let's just see what comes out of this one. So I'm going to start by reading parts of my journal. So this is the Create the Life journal, which I published in 2008. And I'm inviting Lyndon to throw any questions at me. So we don't know what's going to come out. So the subtitle, I guess you would call it, it's on the top of the book, above the title. It says, Journal Your Way to the Life You Want. And on the back cover, it says, have you discovered the power of your words? How can the simple act of writing profoundly change your life? So I wrote about how clarity comes through writing. And clarity, of course, allows you to create the life you want, which was a very strong theme in the early years of my business. And I just wanted to share the joy and the freedom that comes from writing. So I'm going to start by reading from the very first page, the thanks and acknowledgement. I won't go through all of it, but I will read this part because it's relevant to my company today. Also to my darling Lyndon, who puts up with me flicking on the light in the middle of the night so I can just get some more thoughts down, creative or otherwise, so we can all get some sleep. I am forever grateful that he has seen more in me than I ever have. So thankful for who he is, even more than what he does, which is incredible in itself. To the journey, ...
Should I get all mushy and cry on your podcast or?
I have always been very grateful. So let's flick over to the next page. It took me 2 pages to thank lots of people. And then it says, my world is made up of so many wonderful people I'd love to acknowledge, but that would fill this book easily. My beloved family and friends, thank you for being you. After that, I put a quote that I just think is incredible. I wrote this in 2008, and this is what it says. Each new friend represents a world in us, a world possibly not born until they arrive, and it is only by this meeting that a new world is born. And that is by Anais Nin. So when I republished this book in 2016, I highlighted that, and I actually don't have the 2016 copy with me because we've just sold out and we're getting more printed. But the revised edition is very similar to this one, so I think I can get away with reading from the 2008 edition. And of course, we are going back in time to check out what I wrote. So then I wrote about the purpose of this journal and some pretty personal stuff in there. And I seriously, I could read so much of this, and Lyndon might tell me to go back and read it. But what I'm going to start with here is, as Anne Frank described it, when I write, I can shake off all my cares, my sorrow disappears, my spirits are revived. She also wrote in the first page of her famous diary, I hope I will be able to confide everything to you, as I have never been able to confide in anyone, and I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support. So I love that, because a journal can be a great place of comfort and support. You just put some words down and, the clarity comes.
Kerry, that quote by Anais Nin, that's obviously been with you for a long time. When you wrote that, did you know that was going to become a really significant quote or really significant part of your life about strangers?
Wow. No, I didn't see it. And it's really interesting looking back. And for those who have just tuned in, I've written Do Talk to Strangers, How to Connect with Anyone Anywhere, and a sequel. And I'm currently writing a third book on the topic. No, I think I started my coaching practice in 2004. I think I was already passionate about, making people feel welcome, helping people feel at ease. But it was through coaching that I was equipped with tools to assess my own thinking and tune in and really listen to people and ask quality questions. And I grew my business through connecting. I would meet people on trains, planes, cafes, and everywhere. And amazing things happened. So worlds opened up. And, new worlds do open up to us when we get out of our comfort zone, when we talk to somebody. And so, each new friend is an incredible opportunity to step into a new world. So I loved seeing that when I was editing this book for the revised edition, for the 2016 edition. And I came across that and I just went, oh my goodness, that's when the epiphany occurred. That's when I think I realized I have been talking about this for a long time. And when we reflect on our journey, we see all the connections, we see how we've met somebody and they introduced us to somebody else and great things happened. And when I hear people talking about, a self-made man, I think there's really no such thing, because no one can grow an empire without people. Nobody has customers without connecting with people. So it's all about connections, and it always has been, but now I have so much more clarity about that. Yeah, great question.
Let you get back to your reading.
Thanks. Okay, so I have some questions. What if somebody reads it? What if I don't know where to start? And I encourage you to pick up the pencil or pen and just write. But I did put some questions like, how would I describe my current situation? How happy am I on a scale of 1 to 10? What is this really about? How did this happen? What am I going to do? What are my options? What am I learning, or what have I learnt today? That is such a good question. And what can I be grateful for today? Actually, this reminds me, what am I learning? That question came to me when I was standing on the top of a high-rise hotel in Kuala Lumpur. And I was just looking at this city the first time it was the second time I'd been there, but it was the first time I'd really stood on the top of a building and just looked out over the city. And I asked myself, what am I learning here? Or what can I learn here? And I just had several epiphanies about growth, about change. And I just find that is such a powerful question, because when we are still and we just ask, what can I learn? What can I learn in this current situation? What can I learn by looking at this view? And it doesn't matter what the view is. There can be all kinds of insights emerge. So journaling's powerful when we just start asking ourselves some questions.
That moment when you were looking at the KL Towers, you took a photo, and that photo and a quote around what you just talked about ended up in somebody else's book.
Yes, that is in the beautiful Syzygy Moments book that Anu and Minchin put together. And let's put a link to that in the show notes, because it's a beautiful book. And so the photo is, there's the Twin Towers in KL and, just a shot of the city. And I took that photo on the phone, and I never actually saw the photo any bigger than my phone screen until they sent me the book, and I opened it up, and there's a full page color photo from my phone that is just stunning. The afternoon sun on the buildings. You can read the names of some of the buildings. So that surprised me. And it says, when you see growth and change around you, are you intimidated or inspired? Are you envious or encouraged? We get to choose our response. And that was one of the epiphanies that I had at the top of that building that day when I asked myself, what can I learn here? Because I thought about a city that they had a lot of buildings that were like 1 or 2 stories and then massive high rises. And I thought, how would it be if you're in this suburb in the city and things have always been like they've always been, and then there's growth and change around you and high rises are shooting up, and human beings have different responses to change. And when we're threatened by change or when we're inconvenienced and don't see the opportunities, then it can be really difficult. But if we choose to be inspired rather than intimidated, we can learn so much. And I often find that people are intimidated by people when they've let envy come in. And if they can choose to be inspired and encouraged to know that if this person did it, then maybe there's something I can learn so I can do it too. Yeah. So yeah, that was...
I've just thought of another question. Is it okay if I keep asking you a question still around this? And if you don't get all of this done, maybe you can do another podcast on it or something.
Okay.
But when you just said that about how people can be envious or inspired, have you found that as... I mean, I've seen you come from a very timid girl who felt very threatened and didn't value herself highly, to somebody who has overcome a lot of stuff and is confident. Have you found that people because you sort of exude a confidence, even though sometimes you don't feel that?
Yeah.
Do you find that people are threatened by your confidence?
Yes. And I like that you said, I might not feel like it. Sometimes I'm just happy. Like I'm happy to be with people. And so they read that as confident if they're not feeling it so much. And I know that when I'm tired, I don't feel as confident. And, it's like we don't have the same emotional energy to bring. And yeah, I just find that in so many conversations with people, it's not just me, but a lot of people somehow, just by being their, joyful self or their focused self or just doing what they're doing, it can be a threat to people who don't understand it or who want that kind of energy or that kind of passion or confidence. And so it's a real shame when people are threatened or when they feel intimidated or envious, because I feel like they lose the energy to be part of something magnificent. Yeah, so it's a conversation that comes up with people a lot, and we have to remember that we get to choose our response. And I think part of my journey has been realizing that when I connected with people because I was so inspired, that I forgot to be nervous, that I was welcomed in, and that people, even if they're very high profile, if you connect with them in a space of encouragement, if you connect with them, with gratitude, expressing how they've inspired you or encouraged you, then they love a connection with another real human being. They don't want to be fawned over. They don't want fangirls. But heart-to-heart gratitude is a really powerful connector. And so I realized that I was able to connect with people who could have been very intimidating, but I'd forgotten to be intimidated because I was inspired or because I was curious. So those kind of attitudes, the curiosity, the gratitude, just opens doors. And so in reflecting upon it, I realized that was the way to go. Connect with gratitude, and then I don't have to feel intimidated. Yeah, I love it when people connect with me, with the same kind of curiosity. I'm happy to answer questions, but when people connect from a sense of envy, like they're putting walls up that actually jeopardize the relationship. So we could go down this rabbit hole for quite some time. But thank you.
I shall let you move on.
Thank you for asking about that. So back to the Create the Life Journal. Now, I just have to say, this book really has about one chapter of text and then quotes all the way through it, but there are blank pages for you to fill in with your own journaling. And I created it for coaching clients and for myself, because I wanted a journal that that we would all use. And one thing that I noticed is that journals don't tend to have page numbers. But if I have page numbers, then when I've written like on page 265 and I realize I've written about this before, I can flick back and find it and go, wow, I was writing about this not just on the 20th of May, but I was writing about this on page 26. So it's very easy for me to reference, because sometimes the 20th of May might be pages and pages of text. So to be able to say, you know, at the bottom of page 23, I wrote this. So it's just little things that I wrote, and quotes at the bottom of the pages to inspire us. And for example, one of them is towards the end of the journal, I have, go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you've imagined. Henry David Thoreau.
And I've used the journal that you gave me. I've since
Yeah.
lost it. I don't know where it is. I looked for it several times because I'm like, oh, I wrote about this and I want to go and find it. But I found that sometimes the quotes that were at the bottom of the page were particularly relevant for what I was going through. And
me too.
Yeah, it was uncanny.
Yes. And so I just flicked open to this page that I think is relevant to us, my darling. Page 167. Be excellent to each other.
That was one of I picked that one, didn't I?
I think you might have recommended that I put that one in.
And we'll leave that open to whoever knows where that reference is from. Let us know in the, when we publish on social media where you think it's from.
Be excellent to each other. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So this is fun. Okay. So flicking back and, oh my gosh, yes, there's something really powerful there, and I'll read that. But first of all, let me read from page 6. I have coached hundreds of people, and the joy never diminishes when someone tells me about the life-changing insights that come from taking time to explore thinking. This is what we do in a coaching conversation, of course, but when a client goes home and writes about the insights, exploring their learning on paper, the insights grow and produce more insights. This increases your clarity about what's most important, fuels determination and focus to stay on track, and creates more exciting accomplishments. This leaves them with a profound sense of purpose, a sense of awe about the significant changes, and a gratitude for where they're at and where they're moving towards. I asked a few people to share their thoughts on journaling with me and was delighted to hear different perspectives, some of which I'm sharing below. Notice there's no right or wrong way. This journal invites you to be yourself on its pages and write, list, draw, or paste pictures, even write a letter to yourself. I love that. I love reading this line that says this journal invites you to be yourself on its pages, because the book that I'm writing at the moment, How to Talk to Strangers, it's about, like, a good element of it is about being yourself, because when you are being yourself, you connect more freely with people. If you're trying to follow a script or steps of how to start a conversation, how to have an awkward conversation, if you don't have that important foundation of being yourself, you will struggle, because we need to be authentic. So I just love that I wrote that back in 2008. And then there's Ellen's story about when she was 13 and wrote a letter to herself to open when she was 16, and that was profound. And then she wrote a letter for when she would turn 21. So she said, I was really excited to open it, the 21st birthday letter, and read what I'd written. I could see that I was doing so much of what I wanted to, but I also saw that some things were not as important to me as they were at 16 years of age. It was exciting in that I had become the kind of person I wanted to be by 21. It was like there was a 16-year-old person looking up to the 21-year-old, which was a really lovely feeling. I look forward to celebrating what I've achieved by my 30th. And that gives me goosebumps, because she has accomplished so much, and it's been an absolute joy to work with her from time to time in different businesses and exciting things that she's taken on. Yeah, and then Karen wrote about how, she'd written in a journal from time to time, but during this coaching process, we had a conversation, and then she went back and she wrote, and she said, it wasn't about beating myself up, it was about releasing the thoughts swimming around in my mind and committing to changing my thought processes. I gave myself permission to do whatever I needed to do to change my situation. And then she went on to say that she hasn't actually looked at the words again since then, but she vividly recalls, she says, how I felt while I was journaling, both before and after. I felt strong with the willpower to follow through with the changes I needed. At the point of journaling, I could feel my whole way of thinking was changing. It was like a powerful coaching conversation. I was completely focused. There were decisions I knew I had to make. Since then, I've put 300% more effort into that part of my life, and it's already paying off. I feel so much stronger, capable, and ready for new challenges. My future looks so much better now. It may sound weird, but I have been sitting on my hands for so many years. With a simple journal, I've managed to chart a new, happier course for the rest of my life. It took 5 minutes to write my biggest challenge into my journal, 5 minutes to change the course of my life.
Wow, that's powerful, isn't it?
It really is. And yeah, and I just love it when people come and share those kind of things with me. And I'm like, I'm amazed, but in another way, I'm not surprised at all because this is what happens, you know. And yeah, and then I had stories from, you know, clients and colleagues, and yeah, just beautiful. So from all over the world.
Can I ask? It's probably a personal question. You can cut it out if you'd like. Now you've had fantastic experiences with journaling, and had a very terrible experience with journaling also when you were younger, where somebody read one of your journals. And
yes.
So my question is this: is journaling worth that risk of somebody of that happening?
Yes. Yeah. As you started saying, I've had, you know, great experiences with journaling. I'm like, oh yeah, and I just need to share, you know, just complete transparency. You might see me as a writer because I've published a number of books, but I do have a love-hate relationship with writing. Sometimes I just want to get things on paper. But yeah, I definitely had a fear about someone reading it, and that is in page 3, where I've got questions people ask about journaling. What if somebody reads it? And I said, you know, it doesn't usually happen, especially if you have a safe place for it. And maybe I didn't when I was young. But now I think people love reading, you know, like published journals, like Anne Frank. She didn't know her journal was going to be published. And but I said, I think we tend to worry too much about what other people think about us, and it gets in the way of our progress. They really don't think that much about you. They're too busy thinking about themselves. Yeah, if we are too worried about our thoughts to put them on paper, they probably need to be on paper to get them out of your head. But there have been times where I have journaled or written, you know, just written out something that I'm going through. You know, if it's a conversation with somebody, it might not go well. So put it on paper first. So I have put a match, you know, over the sink, lit a match, and burned the paper, crumpled the ashes into the bin. I have torn them into little pieces, put things through the shredder. But because sometimes I think you need to write, you need to get it out of your head, but you don't need to keep it.
Yep.
So, yeah, feel free to dispose of it thoughtfully. But
and safely. We're not advocating that you light a match over your sink.
No, everyone needs to do what's, you know, safe in their environment, but or tear into little pieces. But the shredders are good too. Yeah, but it's about getting rid of it. Get it out of your head. Some things you don't want to read again.
So what would you say to people who are of the opinion that once you speak something or write it down and it's negative, that you're putting it out there and you're giving it power? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I hear that, and I think when we write things out, we can see what we're saying. And sometimes even in conversations, people say things and they don't hear it. And this is really funny in coaching when I say, so I'm hearing that you'd like to do this, this, this. And they look at me like the lights go on and go, oh, that's amazing. Yes, thank you, Kerry. That's what I want to do. And I just pause and say, you realize that you said it first. That's your idea. And they're like, oh, it is too. So sometimes we're not even conscious of the meaning or the significance of something that comes out of our mouth or out of our pen So it's important to write it down, but don't finish there. Like you might write, something awful, or maybe you feel awful about something or someone. Then you get it on paper. Then you go, okay, what do I do with this? And I want to write a different ending. So maybe it's about being honest with yourself. And if you honestly feel terrified, daunted, angry, and that's one that I didn't want to own for a long time. I don't want to express anger, but then when I write it out, I can make sense of it and I can let it go. Then I can be free. So it is like peeling off this layer of grief or angst, and then looking at it in a pile on the floor and going, okay, I'm going to let that go now. This is the thinking that I want to choose. So just like when I'm talking to somebody about networking, going into a room and feeling daunted or intimidated or nervous, or walking out on stage, to just see yourself gathering that dark feeling and putting that on the floor behind you and choosing a better focus, choosing to be empathetic and curious, or understanding, or cheerful, or encouraging. So yeah, it's about being honest with ourselves. So I think I said something about being honest on the pages of this book. Yeah. I was thinking, I don't know how we're going for time, but I was thinking of reading a little bit from my next book. Should I sneak in a little bit from the next book, or we save that for another podcast?
I think save it for another podcast. Did you read everything you wanted to read for this one, darling?
Oh, I think so. I love, I've just picked up the book and on the back of it again. People ask me about the journey of this book, right? Because it's my first book and people expected the first book took longest, but this was actually pretty quick, because I said to a friend of mine who was actually an elephant keeper at the zoo, I said, I'm just thinking about doing this book and this is what it would look like and this is how it would be useful. And she said, oh, that's a great idea. She said, do you have a time frame for the book? And I just laughed. I said, you sound like a coach. No, it's just an idea, because, I haven't actually decided to do it. And then she paused and she said, oh, I just think it would be great for Christmas presents. And then that stopped me in my tracks. And I just thought, oh, could I do it by then? And then, I'm speaking at the at Coach Fest, which was the 10-year anniversary of Results Coaching Systems, which is now the Neuro Leadership Group. And I was speaking at that and getting an award at that. I didn't know that at the time. But I went, what if I launched it there? Because the coaching journey was what really helped me to create this too. And so the time pressure was on, and I didn't know where to start, but I started with somebody I'd met who'd written a book, and Dale Beaumont, who I had connected with because of his Secrets Exposed series. I'd read his book and his bio and was just so amazed by this young person, like 27, publishing 16 best-selling books. And I sent him a card and I said to you, Lyndon, I'm going to have lunch with him one day. No, I think I might have said, I'm going to have coffee with Dale one day. And then he rang me after he got my card and said, when are you in Sydney next? Can I take you out for lunch? I was like, what?
I remember that.
Amazing. And then I ring my friend who also knew of Dale's books, and I went, guess who I'm having lunch with? So so then we worked with Dale on a website, and so I was talking to Dale quite frequently at the time. And so I rang him. I said, okay, I'm doing a book, I'm doing it by Christmas. Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to do? And one thing he said was, you need testimonials on the back cover. I said, great, can you please write one for me? So I'm just going to read this because I just think it's powerful. I was 19 years of age when I wrote down in a journal an audacious goal to write and publish 16 best-selling books. Today, just 8 years on, I am proud to say I have achieved that goal. That is the power of writing down thoughts and flashes of inspiration. So go on, grab your copy of Create the Life Journal today. Dale Beaumont, creator of the Secrets Exposed series. And Dale has created, incredible businesses since then, and he's still making a difference in thousands or millions of entrepreneurs' lives around the world. He's really quite extraordinary. But I loved that because he was a young person just going for it, and I love hearing about what people write in a journal. And even when I was new in my coaching practice and going back through an old notebook, I had written at the top several years earlier, I'd just written at the top of a page, become a coach. And I thought, what? That's amazing. I thought I'd never heard of coaching until this year, like 2003, 2004. Just amazing. So I think we write things that we don't know the potential and the power of. So it's pretty powerful and confirming when we go back through our journal and read those flashes of inspiration, those ideas, because they do kind of plot a course. When you look back over it, it's connecting the dots like Steve Jobs talked about in that commencement speech.
You've talked about moments where you've gone back and read your journal and gone, oh, I've written that already, like the
theme
and things like that. I suppose in closing, not that it's my podcast and I can tell you that in closing. So what's something that you have in your journal that you've deliberately written there with the intent to achieve, or that's you've written there because you want to write it to make a bigger difference?
Oh, I think sometimes we don't realize until later, but the thing that came to mind when you asked that was January 2016. I wrote in my journal, I was feeling quite lost, but I knew that I wanted this year to be stretching me even more. I wanted to learn so much more. I felt like I was just getting started in Asia. I had spoken about Do Talk to Strangers in Singapore and the Philippines. And it was incredible. And I was learning so much, but I knew I wanted more of the out of the comfort zone stuff, the stuff that would really stretch me. And the more I was getting to know people from other countries, the more I was realizing that my world was quite small. And so I wrote in my journal, I want to go to 5 different countries this year. And I wrote Singapore and Philippines. And I wrote New Zealand, but then I crossed it out because I felt like it was cheating, because New Zealand is like, it's just over the ditch, and it's kind of, they're our neighbor, and
their family.
Yeah. It's like it doesn't really tick the box in terms of connecting with other cultures as much, and I have a Kiwi brother-in-law, so it wasn't out of the comfort zone, and their hot pools are totally in my comfort zone. So, okay, I had 3 lines, and I just put a question mark over all 3 of them, and I said, God, surprise me. And you know what? I was amazed to very soon after that be invited to speak in Brunei. And I confess I had to Google, where is Brunei? And then by the 1st of July, I was flying into my 5th country. So I had invitations to Malaysia, to the Philippines, Singapore, to Indonesia, and Brunei. So that blew me away. It was writing that down, going, I'm not clear on where I'm going to end up, but I know that I want to go and I want to grow. So that was a pretty significant journaling moment. And, that was just by the 1st of July that I was landing in the 5th different country. I think I'd already been to Singapore 2 or 3 times that year on my way to Brunei and Philippines. And by the end of that year, I'd done like about another 4 trips. I'd been to Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia again in that year. And my world has just continued to grow. So I think, when we put something on paper, it's like a very gentle daring. You dare put it on paper, and you can just let it sit there, and then you start seeing things emerge that continue the journey. But while ever we keep things buried and don't talk about it or don't write about it, then it can be potential not tapped into. So yeah, pen and paper, it's powerful stuff. So my friends, I hope that you will grab pen and paper today. If you're in Australia and you want to get a copy of Create the Life Journal, jump on the website. If you would like to get it, it's on Amazon now.
Or in the links.
So
in the show
We'll put
notes.
the link
I'll
in.
put it into Amazon in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. But however you write it, draw it, whatever you like to use, just get your thoughts out, and then you can see what's valuable, and you have valuable thoughts, and it's awesome if you can share them. So thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing, Kerry.
And, you know, I'd love to hear feedback on this. If you'd like me to unpack some insights from previous books, not previous to the journal, but just my other books. So I've written 4 books of my own, working on my 5th, and I've co-authored about 10 books as well and help clients with their books. So, yeah.
Do you like this format? Do you like it when I'm sitting just listening to Kerry and then going, what about this? Because we didn't plan any of these questions.
Nope.
I just thought, oh, I'll ask that. Some of the questions I knew the answer to, some of them I didn't. So I have learned stuff. It's interesting.
Yeah. What have you learned today, Lyndon?
Oh, that you're an even more amazing person than I think.
Oh. This is why he's still here 26 years later.
Come on, guys, take that to heart.
Encouragement is powerful, and I think I might have mentioned that right at the very beginning. Lyndon is a very encouraging man. So thank you for joining this conversation, Lyndon. And yeah, I was going to just do this by myself, just read some pieces and share them. But, you know, I'm always up for conversation. If there's an opportunity to collaborate with somebody, then let's do it. So I think in future reading episodes of the podcast, if we think this is a winner, then we'll do it again. And I might invite other people to join the conversation. We might start with inviting the Connect with Confidence members who are in the online course at the moment. So yeah, have a fantastic week. Put some of your thoughts on paper. They are gold. Mwah. Bye.